Welcome, one and all, to Dave's Dungeon and the finale of the Spooktober movie review. Also, episode 15. This one is a little known classic. Well, maybe it's not a classic to everyone, but it's at least a classic to my nostalgic little dark heart. The Lost Boys from 1987. Now, 1987, coming out a year before my birth, I got a special story to tell y'all about this one. So, stay tuned. But before we get too deep off in it, let's talk about the details. The runtime on this one is 96 minutes. What I would say is the perfect length for a standard feature, in my opinion. Put on by director Joel Schumacher. Written by Jan Fisher, James Jeremiah, and Jeffrey Bowen. This one, there's not a part about this one that I don't like, at least. I gotta say, this, I don't know, I may gush a little bit much on this one. I almost MVP'd the punks on the pier, or as they called them, the surf Nazis. I don't think I'm going to go that far. They stole some comic books. I don't know that I'm going to prosecute them to the point where I call them Nazis. But let's give out our MVPs. Jason Patric as Michael. Corey Haim as Sam. Rest in peace. You will be missed and remembered. Diane Weist as Lucy. Edward Herman as Max. Good to see you again, Mr. Herman. Corey Feldman and Jameson Newlander as the Frog Brothers, Edgar and Alan. Jamie Gertz as Star. Bernard Hughes as the Grandpa. Kiefer Sutherland as David, wink wink, and Alex Winter as Marco. I know that's dang near everyone in the film, but what can I say? This is a top-notch cast from top to bottom. And I really do think it's a top-notch movie from top to bottom. All the way down to the soundtrack. And yes, we are going to talk about the soundtrack. Now, I know what you're thinking already, and I can hear some of you right now. Dave, why do you want to talk about the music? You talk about horror movies. Well, when this movie came out in 1987, a little horror movie fan by the name of Christina Collins got fascinated with this one. And, well, she was pregnant with little old me. Needless to say, when she was driving to the hospital with me, I gotta explain hospitals in the 80s, I guess. Back then, you could bring in music in the form of cassettes. There were no CDs yet. There were only cassettes. So, what do my mom and dad do but grab the cassette out of the car as they go into the hospital? And what should be in the cassette player but the Lost Boys soundtrack? Yeah, your one and only Dave was born to the soundtrack to this very movie. To which my own dad used to make fun of me and say I was born to People Are Strange. I guess he was right after all. But I gotta say, the music in this one really is to die for. You have Lou Graham's Lost in the Shadows. Don't Let the Sun Go Down on Me by Roger Daltrey. People Are Strange, written by The Doors, but performed by Echo and the Bunnymen. You have not one, but two different songs by In Excess. Good Times and Lay Down the Law, which are probably the most festive songs on here, other than The Shock of Sweet Mary Louise, which is the original carnival theme. I believe. May not be original, but it is the carnival theme for this movie. And then we get to Power Play, which is okay. But then we get to the two magical songs of this album. Little Sister by Gerard McMahon. And the song I think is quite possibly the best. I Still Believe by Tim Capello. I mean, Beauty Has Her Way is okay, too. But no, I Still Believe. That saxophone just sends this dark little heart of mine. So, where do we begin? With the Emersons, of course. Two brothers and a mom are forced to move to California, of all places, to live with their grandpa after a messy divorce. And I gotta say, this movie has one of the most quotable dialogues you'll ever hear in cinema. To the point which, after I finish my synopsis, I might have something special in store for you. So, we moved to California to live with Grandpa, to which Grandpa says, "Lucy, you're the only woman I ever knew that didn't improve her situation by getting divorced." Oh, and not even her dad has any mercy on her or the grandkids. So, while our struggling mother Lucy is trying to get things moved in and settled, and while trying to maybe improve their situation by finding a job, she lets loose her two kids, Michael and Sam, onto the boardwalk community of Santa Carla. But you might say she should have kept her eyes on them a little closer instead of worrying about where the money was going to come from. Because while the young brother Sam would fall in with a pair of spooks at the local comic book shop, who would end up teaching him how to survive and end up saving his life, the older brother Michael follows a cute girl that leads him to the one place cute girls always lead to: trouble and hanging out with the wrong crowd. And I do mean absolutely. Michael falls in with a bad crowd, because these people are up to absolutely no good. But they're welcoming enough to Michael, at least at first, because after all, they are just noodles, Michael. But Michael should have listened to Star, because after all, they weren't just noodles, and it wasn't just wine, now was it? Michael. Now, him and Star are both the thralls to David, who really wants them to join the family, which means they need to feed so they will fully turn. One of us, Michael. So, what's an older brother to do but seek out a younger brother to help? And what's the younger brother to do but seek out his friends, the only ones he has now? The Frog Brothers, Edgar and Alan. Yeah, get that? Edgar Allan. The writing on this one is almost too clever. Who all come together to figure out how to stop these vampires and how to save Michael and the other two from their terrible fate. But as the titular pair and our brothers, the real brothers and the fake brothers. If you don't understand, Michael and Sam are real brothers. I don't know if Edgar and Alan actually are brothers. That'd be something to look into. There are more of these, but I don't know. I'm a purist. I stick to this one. But as they're killing off the vampires one by one in the sunken remains of an old hotel that was pulled underneath the ground in an earthquake. Sorry, I had to let the country hick out for a minute. David wakes up. But as we find out, is David the main vampire? Nope. The Dracula of this clan of vampires in this case was running a honeypot scam of his own, which had, in fact, ensnared them all. Turns out Mom's new boss and her new bit of strange, Max, was behind the whole thing. Everybody needs a mother. Too bad for Max. Michael isn't the real man of the house, and he didn't invite him this time. And neither did Grandpa. This movie has some of the best quotes and one-liners you will ever hear. I'd almost be willing to say that this movie is infinitely quotable. So, before I throw you out, and before we close our final chapter for this year, let's talk about what I would say are the top 5 quotes in this one. Number 5. Now, wait a minute. Before you get in my ass about, Dave, only 5? Yes, only 5. If this were Sleepaway Camp or something else that were a little less quotable, I could go, eat shit and die, Ricky. Eat shit and live, Bill. And she's a real carpenter's dream. Flat as a board and in need of a screw. Those two would be my most quotable quotes of that movie. This one, on the other hand, nostalgia, blinders, my own love for the writing, how much of it is the foundation of my personality, it's a little harder to come by just one. So, I made myself come up with a list of 5 for just ease. So, without any further ado, let's get into number 5. Death by Stereo. Number 4. They're only noodles, Michael. Number 3. Great, the blood-sucking Brady Bunch. Oh, and number 2. I gotta get into this one. Hold on. You're a vampire. I knew it. I am not. So what are you, a flying nun? Look at your reflection in the mirror. Look, you're a creature of the night, Michael. Just like out of a comic book. You're a vampire, Michael. My own brother. A goddamn blood-sucking vampire. You wait till Mom finds out, buddy. Any dialogue between Michael and Sam is just about the best thing I could think of. And then, I guess for honorable mentions before I give you number 1. Wait, you have a TV? No, I just read the TV guide. Read the TV guide. You don't need a TV. And honorable mention number 2. Okay, where's Count Dracula? Who? The Prince of Darkness. The Nightcrawler. The Bloodsucker. El Vampiro. Mike, they're here. And finally, my number 1 favorite movie line quote from this one is from Grandpa. One thing living in Santa Carla I never could stomach. All the goddamn vampires. Dad. Oh, this one is quite possibly, in my opinion, and I'm going to preface that highly, the perfect vampire movie. Now I know, whoa, what about Bram Stoker's Dracula? What about, yeah. This one for me is what made vampires real. And in any way relatable, and in any way terrifying for the beginnings of my life. It wasn't until Dracula came along and I didn't know whether I should be seduced or terrified that, things kind of fell apart. Dracula is a little too horny to be scary, but given it comes from Carmilla, I see where it gets it from. But, I don't know, I don't want to beat it to death. It is one of my favorite movies that you can put on whenever, really. I think I've seen it 4 or 5 times this year. I could just about quote it to you. But, I won't. I think that's gonna do it for this one last episode and one last time around the bonfire. If you want to watch this movie, it is available through AMC, and if you have Shudder through Amazon, you probably have an AMC subscription as well. If not, it's $4 to rent and $10 to own, so do yourself a favor and make sure you buy this one. That's going to do it for this episode. Make sure you leave a like. It really does help the channel out and helps you guys find each other. Make sure you subscribe. I know it seems a little empty here at the end of all things, but we got one final episode coming where I tell you how we did this year, those diehards, and I tell you what I've been up to in the final episode, and then I tell you one final good night for now and say see you next year. But night night, sleep tight, and don't let the vampires eat you in the night. Sweet dreams. Till next time.